So the next panel to start off the afternoon is the impact of technology and AI in shipping. The moderator, Dr. George Lenzis of Springfield Capital Management, will start us off and invite you all to join.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is George Lenzis. I'm the CIO of Springfield Capital, a systematic investment manager here in New York that is involved in shipping. Also an adjunct professor at Columbia Business School in NYU, where I teach and I've set up various courses in machine learning and AI applied to finance, business, and marketing problems generally. Over the next 5-10 minutes, I'm going to talk to you briefly about what artificial intelligence is. I think it's something that is useful. A lot of people use the term. There's a lot of jargon. But I think most of the non-technical audience doesn't really understand what it means and what it involves. So I'm going to try to give you the 5-10 minute introduction to AI. All about AI you wanted to know, but we're afraid to ask. And after that, our speakers are going to introduce themselves and tell you briefly what they do. And we will discuss the impact of AI and technology for shipping and all its aspects, from chartering, physical, to finance, to you have it. So artificial intelligence, or AI, is one of the hottest terms right now, after coronavirus, probably, which I promise I won't say anything about, because I'm sure everyone's been talking about it. So what is AI, and what does it have to do with shipping? AI is a very loose term, and lots of people define it very differently in terms of technical definitions or big picture things. In my mind, artificial intelligence involves machines doing things that we usually associate with people. Okay? So AI is not a set of tools, it's not a set of specific models, it's not a set of I build this neural network, it's AI. No. AI is a set of techniques, tools, algorithms that allow a machine to do what usually a person would do. And what are these things that a person would do? Well, first, speech. Those of you who have Alexa spying on you at home, for example, or use Siri. So that's a speech is something that a human being would do. So when a machine starts to understand speech and is able to speak back to you, well, that's AI. What else can a human being do pretty well? Well, vision. Okay. So when you have now all these things that happen, like at Google being able to identify cats on videos on YouTube, or more interesting applications in technology where all of a sudden you fly drones and you have them able to recognize the objects and types of things that are happening. Well, usually that's what a person would do. Okay. Another great example is locomotion, or the ability to navigate in space. Okay. And so you have self-driving cars, maybe self-driving ships, robots walking around, dogs dancing, if you've seen those videos online, which are really funny and terrifying, and all sorts of things that people can do. So what does that mean for business in general, or for shipping, if you want? Well, what it means is that a lot of the things that are now happening by humans, just because only humans can do them, will eventually be done by machines. And that's both an incredible and rather terrifying prospect. Okay? Because if you think about it, there's a lot of stuff that we as human beings do right now just because we are humans. It doesn't require any training other than just being an adult. Okay? Such as, for example, reading emails and responding to them. Or reading receipts and importing that data into a system. Or summarizing information, or gathering information, or steering a wheel, and all sorts of things like that. Many of these things don't require particular training. That's why most of us in here have a driver's license. It doesn't really require a lot of training to drive a car. It just requires you to be a well-functioning adult. So a lot of these things are going to be in the near future, and it's already happening in many other industries. If you've never seen any of this stuff, I would suggest that you Google how Amazon is moving around its containers in its warehouses. All these things are going to be done by machines in the near future, and they're going to be done faster. They're going to be done more efficiently, and they're going to be done in a more cost-effective way. The implications are enormous, both for the production side or for the people who are actually running the businesses, in terms of how are you going to be able to compete with a competitor who has 30% improved efficiency, and also on the production side, if you like, on the labor side of the production, what are all these people going to do? What is going to happen to all these jobs? Again, this might all sound that it's very far in the future. Let me tell you it's not. I'll give you a very clear example from another shipping industry that is where things are happening faster. Trucking, okay? Automated trucks, self-driving trucks is probably one of the things that will happen in the immediate future, because the economics make sense. The routes are very standardized. It's the same things. The same trucks are driving back and forth. Driving a truck is tough business. There's lots of regulations about the drivers having to sleep and having to take breaks. So if you're running a trucking business, and all of a sudden your driver, which is probably, I'm going to say, a large percentage of your operating cost, is replaced by a machine. So your cost has just gone down, and your ability to utilize that truck has doubled. How much more competitive are you versus everybody else? And how does anybody else who doesn't do that, how can they stay in business? Now in shipping, not trucks, this stuff is not there yet, and it's going to happen slower, simply because it's a much more fragmented industry. It's a global industry. The regulations are going to be harder to navigate. The cargo and the vessels are much larger, so mistakes are very costly. But be sure it will happen. So over the next 30 minutes or so, my colleagues and speakers are going to discuss some of these challenges, some of these opportunities. And this panel is going to evolve around two topics. One is technology, and technology really means, okay, what are the new things that are happening in shipping, and how can they improve the process, both, again, from all sides, financial side, chartering side, building side, and actually AI. What are the sort of more extreme or things that people don't really expect will happen in the next few years? How will the vast progress that is happening in other industries affect shipping? What is the timeline? What are the things that will probably happen next? What are the implications for shipping companies or the people who are doing business with them? And what should someone who is actually involved in shipping and realizes that a massive wave of technological change is upon you or upon us is supposed to do? So with that, I will pass it on to my colleagues who are going to introduce themselves and their work briefly. It's a diverse set of people and companies, some in more technology, data gathering, service providing, some in more of the AI component. I'll let them introduce themselves, and I'm going to open it up to a few questions, and then I would like to ask you to hold your questions for the end, unless it's something very specifically relevant to the topic. We're going to try and leave 5-10 minutes. This topic usually creates lots of questions, so I'm going to try and leave 5-10 questions at the end, 5-10 minutes at the end for your questions. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Michael, if you want to start.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. So I'm Michael Johnson, founder and CEO of HACC-NACC. We build autonomous control systems and advanced situational awareness or perception systems for vessels. We're a 5-year-old company based in Boston with a second office in Hamburg, Germany. Myself, I'm a marine engineer, and as well as a shipbuilder. So started my career sailing and then went into the shipyards. And then I was to set up where this company came from, I was a vice president at Crowley Corporation, part of their global projects group. And there, we got to manage projects of all types, from the Arctic to the tropics for oil majors, logistics projects, but we also had a salvage company as well. So over the course of a number of these projects, I saw the need for improving the way that we navigate and manage our vessels. But it really came to 2012 when I got the call from the gentleman, Captain Rich Habib, who ran Titan Salvage, that Captain Schettino had run the Costa Concordia up on the rocks in Italy. And as we always did, we raced over there, and we, within 3 weeks, put together the commercial and technical plan to salvage that vessel. And, we won that, and as you said, mistakes are costly. It ended up being like a $1.4 billion mistake. But unfortunately, I from my apartment, I'd look down on that wreck every day and just think about the lives that were lost as well. And it was just all because of a human decided error there. And I realized, in this world, we don't have to have these. We can operate with much more predictability and productivity and de-risk things. So started Sea Machines. We have products on the market today certified by Bureau Veritas. We have products on Maersk vessels, and in fact, one of our clients just sailed by with ATB here. We have wireless helm system that we just went through a year of working with ABS and U.S. Coast Guard, gaining approval for the world's first commercial wireless helm for a vessel, and as well as our flagship autonomy products. And look forward to answering questions.
Thank you, Michael. Semi?
Hello, my name is Semira Misasi-Makopoulou. I work for Signal Group. Signal Group is a Greek company based in Athens with an office in London. It consists mainly of two entities, a shipping company that runs an Aframax pool, doing chartering and operations, and a technology company called Signal Ocean, which has developed a software as a service to support decision-making in shipping. So technology, AI, machine learning, all these buzzwords is the raison d'etre of Signal. We have developed a technology that we used internally for the first couple of years, and then since 2018, the solution has become commercial, and charterers, owners, and brokers can use it. We really feel that, especially in chartering, where decision-making can happen within 5 minutes to 5 seconds sometimes, shipping is overwhelmed with data starting from AIS to commercial information. And as George said earlier, it's not that a human could not do it by himself. I mean, theoretically, you could collect all the data, sit down, look at competition, understand how vessel supply is changing, and run numbers by hand. But the moment you finish, actually the market has changed. So, and then you have to start again. So we feel that without changing the market structure, using AI and the vast availability of data that the shipping industry has, it can allow people to perform better and to make better decisions with a higher level of confidence. So, yeah, I'm here to answer questions later on.
Thank you. Alex?
Hello, my name's Alex Donga. I'm from Wine-Dark-Sea, which is a company that I founded about 2.5 years ago. My background is working for ship owners in the tanker space and in the LPG space. And I set up Wine-Dark-Sea in order to fix problems that I saw in the software surrounding the chartering and operations teams. So all the software that we make is focused on chartering and operations. So far, it's been bespoke software, but we're moving towards a subscription model, and we're working on that platform. I'm based in Oxford. The office is in Oxford, and I have a second office in Copenhagen. Really, we don't deploy AI in the same sense that, say, Signal Ocean or StormGeo or Sea Machines Robotics. Rather, we rely on it. So I think that my perspective is probably quite similar to the ship owners rather than to the purveyors of AI. And I think that it has some very interesting implications that aren't always obvious. I think a lot of people might be thinking to themselves, how is it going to change my role? Charterers might be thinking to themselves, am I going to be needed in 10 years' time? Operators may be the same. Certainly the guys on board the ships might be thinking similar things. I read an interesting survey online about AI research and AI researchers who said that they think that translating languages, AI will be better than humans in 2024, driving trucks in 2027, and even working as a surgeon in 2053. So, certainly one could have cause for concern and think that, AI will take over. But I think the reality is that, and I'm sure the other guys will have a lot of input on this, I think that the landscape will change and roles will change and skills required in shipping will change, which I think is maybe something that we could discuss a bit later. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Tobias?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Tobias Kröger. I'm working for a Norwegian company named StormGeo. Maybe the name here in the US of Applied Weather Technologies is more familiar to you. Those companies have merged 5 years ago. StormGeo is a global company operating in about 30 countries. We have nowadays 3 business units up and running, 3 service lines. For sure, the most prominent one is the weather routing, route optimization services, mainly for the shipping industry. So this is all about navigational safety, bringing a vessel safe from A to B. But in that context, we also serve other industries, such as the oil and gas industry and on-demand. One good example, which we always like to share, is when Harvey hit the Houston or the greater Houston area, we were asked to kind of consult one of these hospitals down there, whether it's needed to evacuate or not. So our weather specialists, they actually advised the hospital, well, you're safe there where you are. Luckily, it turned out like this. So it's not only shipping, it's much more when it comes to the weather service optimization. The second unit is what is called fleet performance management. That is pretty much all about realizing fuel savings. That ties into the discussion we have heard earlier before when it comes to the Poseidon principle. So what can shipping companies do to reduce the fuel costs, reduce emissions? But it's also about the entire journey where everything starts, and that is on board. So to drive a decision is sure in terms of what are the actions, what are the measures we can do. It requires to have data. And so there's one part of that fleet performance unit is also to get to consult shipping companies how to make use of the best possible set of the data stack. We apply machine learning algorithms over there. And last but not least, the third unit is about planning and navigation. So this is all about electronic charts, publications, notice to mariners, etc., etc. And there it's also integrated and available as a fully digital service to which we apply machine learning algorithms as well as to make sure that the basis on which everything runs can become more effective and efficient over the time.
Thank you, Tobias. And so one of the words that was mentioned multiple times was data. Big data is something that everyone by this time has probably heard. Vast amounts of information are being gathered and will be increasingly gathered from ships. So Semi, I will start by you. How can more data, how can more information lead to better decisions in practice? There's vast amounts of it. How can a system create better decisions for ship owners or finance professionals? Can you give us an example or your thoughts?
Yeah. So I'll focus on chartering, which is what we do in Signal. So there is a lot of data available, and the type of data that we talk of is, of course, AIS, so the GPS of the vessels every 5 minutes, and then commercial information. By commercial information, I mean fixture reports, so which vessel is booked, position list, tonnage lists, information about ports, and about cargoes. So these are various type of data that some are private, some are public. In order for a company to deal with them, they have to first process them and decode them, so convert them into something that can be read by algorithms, and then create what we call situational awareness around vessel supply. So a simple example is actually, am I going to fix a vessel on a Thursday or on a Monday? I know how many vessels are commercially available, not just counting ships based on their GPS, but also understanding their commercial availability based on fusion algorithms with fixture reports and things like that. So am I fixing a vessel now or I wait till Monday? In the shipping industry and in chartering, this can mean 10K per day on a freight rate versus 50K per day. The market is as volatile as that. In the last 6 months, we have seen it in multiple occasions. You fix on Monday 10K, you fix on Thursday 50K. So if you take this decision based on data, backed up by data, there is a higher chance of getting it right. So in Signal, that's what we try to do, and we think that this can convert up to about 100K per vessel per year on commercial performance compared to others.
Thank you. Alex, the next one's for you, and it's something that actually Sammy said, and I think you touched upon as well. And I think it's a common misconception that AI and technology is an automatic product. In the context of gathering all this data, does the decision-making have to be automatic? Do I need to give my control to a machine? Or is there a product or a world where I interact with the machine, I use it as a tool to make better decisions?
Well, I think you've almost answered it with the question, but I think that, call me a romantic, but I think that technology and humans work best hand in hand. At the same time, it can be where they can go most wrong. I mean, there's a sort of quite hilarious case of a Swedish couple who typed in the name of an incorrect Italian village. I think they said Carpi rather than Capri into their GPS. And of course, it took them to Carpi, which is an industrial town in the north of Italy, not exactly what they're expecting. But when you use technology in the right way, as I think Signal quite obviously does, I mean, it's absolutely incredible technology to effectively take all that raw information that you get from WhatsApp, that you get from email, that you get from, even from phone calls. You can apply AI to gathering this information and then provide it to the charterer and say to the charterer, look, now you make the decision with all the best tools at hand. It doesn't necessarily mean that the charterer is one day going to be not needed or irrelevant, rather that their role will change completely because they don't have to spend time doing these manual tasks, more that, in a way, the human level will become even more important, I think is the way I'd put it.
Well, thank you. So let's switch it up now and move towards more AI-related topics. And Michael, this one's for you.
Sure.
How is AI relevant for shipping?
Well, I mean, it's the future of shipping. AI is today we are coming out of this age of simple automation, and we're moving into this age of autonomy and AI. So simple automation was basically, been around for a few hundred years from, I think, maybe the first governors that were developed. But, it was a if-then. It's usually a one sense of feedback to it, if-then. And today we're into autonomy and AI where it's a complex if that, has to be worked through these AI algorithms and models. And then what comes out of it is a variable then. And this is the world that you have to work in order to really, maximize our profits and move as close to the age that we're in, because today we're in the information age. And much of what we do in the shipping world is still the industrial age. And so the further you are, or the closer you are to the information age, the higher profit margin you're going to have. The further you are from it, the lower profit margin you're going to have. So the more data we can bring in and use it as an underlying, not just as an underlying driver of our business, but the top line driver of our business, then I think you're moving closer to the information age.
Thank you. Tobias, What do you think the future will look like? Who will provide the services? Is it going to be a model like a Tesla? So everything is done in-house by this giant powerhouses of AI and shipping? Or is it a model where someone like Google will provide the service as a SaaS, software as a service type of platform, and then the shippers will use all the tools available? Where do you think we're going to be in 10 years from now?
That's actually a good question. I think to a certain extent, we are already there in a kind of hybrid situation. There are some of the number of services which shipping companies, especially the bigger they are, they do by themselves. I mean, it's not a secret that companies like Maersk, like CMA, CGM, they have their in-house performance centers where a lot of day-to-day control, same as like these big cruise ship companies, happens. But in the same way, also those companies, they move forward when it comes to contracting external partners. I think it was Rolls-Royce who a few years back, 2 years back, published a video where a guy was sitting in a fully digitized control room, and similar to Tom Cruise in the Minority Report, he was moving like around, etc., etc. Will the shipping industry in 10 years from now will look like this? Personally, I do not hope that. Why? Because there's always that difference, or the two buzzwords are used when it comes to autonomous versus unmanned shipping industry, which ties into the direction. Will we ever see unmanned vessels, which is needed as part of the AI discussions? I hope not. What will happen if an unmanned vessel is somewhere in the middle of the Pacific and the cylinder breaks up? Will we see autonomous vessels in 10 years? Yes, very likely. So why not to give a certain level of power to the bridge system to have a vessel sailed or navigated in an autonomous way?
Thank you. So now some questions for all of you. What can AI not do? What can it not do well in the next few years?
Yeah, so humans are really good at some things. What we're not good at is the routine, the long duration. I mean, things that, our weaknesses are fatigue and distraction. And also taking in a lot of diverse data at one time. I think they say we can, on a best day, manage like 4 simultaneous things at once. And some of those are certain things like, listening to music or writing, and then maybe also trying to drive at the same time. But what we are really good at is edge cases and managing things that happen that are unique and not part of the routine. So in our world, I'd say 99% of our time on water, 99.9% of our time is pretty darn routine and repetitive. And autonomy, AI-injected autonomy, is really good at managing that. But as Tobias was saying, the human needs to be there for those edge cases, like when Captain Sully landed the airplane in the Hudson over there. That was an edge case that, he has great autonomous control systems on that Airbus, but when the edge case happens, it took the human to perform what needed to be performed. And then over time, as we further develop, I mean, we're talking about over decades, we'll start to nip away at those edge cases, but there's still going to be that human element that's necessary for quite a while.
What is the timing? What does anyone think about timing? What happens in the next 3 years? What happens in the next 10 years? Anyone care to take that guess?
Well, I think if you can answer this question, then
you wouldn't be here, I know, but let's try.
You might be a billionaire out of the second. Well, what will happen in 2 years from now? Yes, we will see more and more digital services, software as a solution coming up. It's always a question whether a shipping company is actually kind of hiring a new person, a new FTE to do the job by themselves, or whether to get something off the shelf. How will it be looking like in 10 years? Well, let's keep the fingers crossed that we will have technology in place which is easy to understand, easy to digest, for instance, to cater the environmental impact. So I think that is the number one driver, which hopefully enables all of us to make use of digital services, but in a way that every human, we are different in cultures, we are different in the mentality, different in the personality, which is also one question what AI cannot do. Hopefully support us in our professional life.
I think if I can just jump in, obviously any new technology, we all get very excited and it's all hyped brilliantly. I think it can be a bit of a Pandora's box, and it sounds like it's all gifted and all rosy, but I think that there's obviously some very serious challenges that we need to address before we sort of wholeheartedly roll it out and accept it all, and accept our computer overlords, to be a bit facetious. But one of the key concerns will be things like vehicle cybersecurity. That the connection between the shore and the vessel itself perhaps isn't the most secure one, if you'll allow me to say that. The communication between the ship and the shore can sometimes be quite manual. So not just in terms of the security, but also in terms of the validity of the data that's being exchanged. And just more generally, I think that AI still can solve very well-defined problems. I say well-defined. The AI experts on the panel, I'm sure, will correct me on this, but general AI, i.e. AI that will solve very wide, broad, loose questions, isn't very close, in my opinion, and from what I've read. General AI, what I mean by that is to say, to a machine, make society fairer, or run my ship better, or tell me when to buy a ship from the shipyard. AI in that looser sense, i.e. that it could just be cleverer than a human, isn't that close. I mean, I'd ask the opinion of the other judges.
Probably not. Let's hope not. And so the million-dollar question for you now. If I'm in the shipping business and I've never really thought about technology and AI and big data until just now, what should I do?
I guess be open-minded to technological solutions that are out there. Do not start something from scratch. A lot of companies try to solve these problems internally, while there are companies that have invested a lot of money, time, and know-how into building something. And allow also the teams to be more analytical and take the time to use technology, and in order not to be afraid. I mean, most of the people think that technological solutions are taking jobs away, but especially in the shipping industry, where relationships really count, most of the technological solutions that are out there are there in order to help from the mundane, from the manual work, and people can focus on developing relationships, on building new contracts, on doing more interesting things. So be open-minded, I guess.
Anyone else?
Yeah, sure. So I guess I didn't fully answer that other question before. I mean, it's happening now. And, it's going to be iterative pieces as it moves forward. But really the plan, I think any company operating in this space needs to have a plan right now. And usually that happens by assigning somebody within the company to really look at this space, understand what autonomy, AI, digital data, what it can do for you. And understand what your competition is doing and is going to be doing, and figure out when you want to get in. I mean, do you want to be a leader and get in today? Do you want to be a follower, or do you want to get left behind? So it's really making a plan today and determining where you're going to enter onto that path.
And if I may add on this, I mean, all fair, and I definitely support what you said, but I would go even a step before that is before you subscribe, before you do anything on digital initiatives. Do a proper due diligence. I mean, every company in its setup is unique. Every person, which are the end user of a software, are unique. So before you subscribe, before you purchase, and you really make sure that what you go or you opt for, what you go forward, is really what you need. We have seen, as being consultants in that energy efficiency context, we have seen a number of project fails simply because there have been smart sales guys, whatever, with a brilliant marketing story around running and promising like everything, and then it turned out that it was not really the good fit. So be cautious what you do a proper due diligence, that whatever you go forward with is really the right solution and not something which is off the shelf, which might only answer, I don't know, 50% of the questions you have.
Thank you. I think we have time for maybe one question.
Hi. So this is a question to anybody. Besides the costs associated with integrating these AI systems into your own systems as a company, what would you say is the #1 reason why an owner, operator, or charter would decide against using AI?
I think that your answer, Tobias, was good about doing a due diligence, get multiple quotes, right? But I think again is determining where you are and your business plan. Is your business driven by being a technical leader in your space, or are you a follower? And really, to me, that's a decision point on just from your business plan of when you want to get into this technology. I can't think of a negative, except as Tobias said, make sure you choose the right partner. Yeah.
Hi, Wyatt Lunson, Swiftbolt. Just one question for Semi. In the case of Signal Group, let's say that the technology just becomes ubiquitous and everybody's using it. Then doesn't it kind of revert back to your human to decide between, for your example, do we fix on Thursday or versus Monday? Doesn't it then kind of revert back to the status quo in that case?
It would if the technology would run on the same data. So our main differentiating point is that all the private commercial information is unique for each of our clients. So the version of the truth that Signal Maritime will see on a Thursday will be different than the version of the truth that Vitol will see, that Shell will see, that Trafigura will see. So we provide the engine and the technology, and each company provides their data for their own use. So a company that has good access to information because of their global presence, because of their people, they will have a different view of the market. So in that respect, this difference of information, it will stay there, and we're not there to democratize information. I hope I answered.
And if I may just jump in, I think that there's a broader point that sort of obviously has been discussed a lot today, that there are some serious pressures coming on ship owners, regulatory particularly, and even using that argument that if, say, ship owners all adopted brilliant technology that made them more efficient, and therefore no one gains a competitive advantage over one another, delivering the service to the client more efficiently, I think on its own would justify making changes, because I think that to meet targets like IMO 2050 of cutting emissions by 50% it's so astronomical that I think a real multifaceted approach. So coming back to this point about communication and engaging with technology companies, obviously I have an interest in that. I've got skin in the game, but engaging and talking and communicating and testing software and being quite open-minded, it's a bit of a shift, I think, for ship owners. But I think that it's one that they're more than capable of doing, and I think that it's fruitful for both sides. So, yeah.
Alex, you had made a comment. Skills required in shipping will change, huge, and this preoccupies me all the time. Obviously, we're going to be in a realm where man and machine must work together. Any of you can comment. How will that work?
Well, very briefly, sorry, I don't want to hog the mic here, but I don't want to tell everyone that they should go away and learn how to code, because I think it's far too simplistic. I think that you can achieve a level of understanding quite quickly and understand what you need to handle the technology. And I think that also it relies on those who make the technology to translate it and to build an interface which is readily understandable, because I think there are far too many products out there which have beautiful and incredible functionality, which are very difficult for the consumer to use. So I think that it's the onus is on both sides. And just going back to this point about reskilling, I think that it's not just about the guys on shore. You know, you think about on the vessel, and we're talking about shifting, say, to LNG propulsion or using, you know, all kinds of alternative fuels. That's going to require a huge amount of reskilling or new skills for the seafarers who are going to have to go from operating a dry bulk ship to suddenly you've got several thousand tons of liquid propane on board for the propulsion. You know, so there's going to be wide-scale reskilling needed, I think, across both ship and shore. So, thank you.
And following, let's say, the comment you made and also the question you made, why is a shipping company eventually, an owner eventually not willing to invest into such thing? Well, it's also about the incentive given along with an investment. Why should an owner invest into new stuff, into new technologies, into an AI machine learning algorithm if the charter rate on the other side keeps on a constant level? So what's the incentive for an owner to go forward if there's nothing which pays back in return? So, and I think that question will become more and more, let's say, alive, hopefully over the next years, also in line with, again, reducing, let's say, the carbon emissions as part of, let's say, our global initiatives.
Got a question with regards to the edge cases. These are usually very low or marginal occurrence, but with huge impacts, and they are typically unforeseen and as a result unmodelable. And to have people to be able to manage these cases, usually this is the result of 20,000 of hours of more of training and experience. Where do you get this training and experience when a machine is doing the job?
Well, we've been having machines do the job for quite a while, right? I mean, if there's any industry that's good at human machines working together, I mean, that's ours. I mean, it goes back to the time of Phoenicians when we started working with the ships. Me, as a marine engineer, grew up first learning steam, and then worked in diesel plants and then PLCs, and you know, so we can adapt to it. But you're absolutely right. I mean, we need to keep our skills fresh and capable, and this transition in edge cases is one of the things that is talked about in almost all automated machines, from the cars that we have today to the aircraft. I think we have an advantage that our domain is the best suited for this type of technology. I mean, we are wide open spaces. We maintain a separation between vessels that is quite large, and we operate at lower speeds. So we inherently give ourselves more time to be able to be reactive as well. But you're right. I mean, you're very accurate that in any type of FMEA or operations planning, there needs to be that focus on going from automation to manual, and I fully agree.
I think that is all. Thank you very much.